At the opening bell, U.S. stocks opened slightly lower, little changed after Donald Trump's surprise victory. But this came after global stock markets dropped dramatically overnight. So where can we expect markets to move next? And what does this mean for your portfolio? Joining us now to discuss is WSJ Money Beat reporter Paul Vigna. Paul, so good to see you.
Hi, Tanya. How are you?
If there's anything that unsettles Wall Street, it's uncertainty, right?
Yes, it is uncertainty. And, you certainly got some uncertainty last night, which is now kind of morphed into some certainty because we at least know definitively who won.
Right.
So that's kind of important.
Yes.
But yes, the market got, a big surprise yesterday.
So is there any near-term risk to the market? Because some investors say they are a little confused over exactly what Mr. Trump's policy goals are.
Right. I think the answer to that is yes. Because, look, any president says a lot of things on the campaign trail. What they can actually get through is another question. And also with Donald Trump, I mean, you're looking at a situation where he comes in as the outsider. He has railed against Washington. He has railed against special interests. He has railed against the way Washington does business. He has said he's going to change everything. But I think you have to remember, you have to keep in mind, too, when you talk about lobbyists and special interests in Washington, I mean, those are corporate interests. So he is now coming in saying, I'm going to change everything, but, because business isn't working for people. But you have to remember, a lot of those policies are policies that businesses wanted. So I think that's a dynamic people aren't really thinking about much yet, but that is going to be important.
True. Now, also, there are many market watchers who say, regardless of who was going to be in the White House, the next 4 years were going to be difficult for investors anyway. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, look, 4 years is a long time. I think you have to look at the situation right now, though, right? I mean, you have GDP growth that it was better in the last quarter, but it is not really good this year. You look at the stock market, you look at the level of the S&P, it is not far off where it was in December of 2014. Stock market has really not gone anywhere in a year and a half. Corporate profits have been negative for longer than a year. GDP growth not very good. Wage growth has gotten a little better recently, but whether or not that's a trend or a bump, we don't know yet. So you look at the sort of broad fundamental backdrop, it is not very strong right now.
Right. And there are sort of, market watchers who are saying the bear is coming, but of course it's notoriously difficult to time. So is the general advice, just sit on your portfolio and don't do anything?
Well, I think there's one question you can't answer for everybody, right? It really depends on what your goals are, what your long-term goals are. I mean, if you're a market trader, you're in there right now, you're buying and selling, you're trying to glean any bit of information, what it's going to mean for the market.
Right.
If you're a long-term investor, if you're looking at your 401k, if you're looking at your retirement funds, then it becomes a little different. Then it's a matter of you have to be abreast of what's happening. You have to keep it on top of the news, but you also have to look at your portfolio and think, what am I trying to get out of this? And then kind of look at, is what I'm currently invested in going to get me where I want to go?
Right.
So it's not just a one-size-fits-all question in the market, like it never is.
Sure. Now, of course, what are the immediate economic concerns that President Trump is going to be facing right off the bat? I mean, of course, he's not going to get the chance to appoint a new Federal Reserve chairman for a while, so those rate hikes are probably coming.
Yeah. Look, those are two big questions.
Yeah, separate.
The immediate economic concerns are, you're talking about a man who just got into White House riding a wave of nothing is working for you, average worker. The economy is not going your way. Washington is not going your way. And those are long-term trends. You're talking about sort of an economic stagnation that has been affecting people for decades. Jobs have been going overseas for decades. His challenge is, in a not particularly strong economy, to reverse that. And he talked a big game. He made a lot of enemies. He talked a big game. He is going to have to implement policies that actually reverse decades of globalization. Can he do that? Can he make things better? And how much time are his political enemies going to give him to do that? That's a big question.
Absolutely.
On the Fed, a lot of big issues with the Fed. Immediately, they have a meeting in a couple of weeks, several weeks in December about what to do with rates. That's the short-term question. Janet Yellen, her term ends on his watch. 2 Fed governors' terms will end on Donald Trump's watch. How is Donald Trump, who has been antagonistic towards the Fed, How is Janet Yellen and the Fed going to interact with Donald Trump? How are they going to coexist? That's going to be a big question for the market. Can't answer it now, obviously, but that is going to be a big question for the market.
Absolutely. And then finally, in terms of political risk, when an investor sort of makes a chart of what he worries about the most, how far down the list is political risk?
It's moving up a lot.
It's moving up lately?
Just look at this year. Look at this year. You have two major political events that occurred that nobody thought, the smart money didn't think could occur. The vote in the UK over whether to leave the EU, the Brexit vote, and now this Donald Trump election. Those are two things that the market thought it knew what was going to happen. Most polls thought they knew what was going. You were just talking about that. And they got it wrong. So now have we moved into a world where you can't really make a good, clear case about what the political risks are. So yes, I think the next big political event that comes up is going to be much higher in people's minds.
A lot to figure out, a lot to see in the days ahead. Paul Vigna, thank you so much for that.
Happy to be here, Tanya, absolutely.